Hello and welcome to Time About the Movies Flashback. Today we're flashing back to Memorial Day weekend 1987, the official start of the 87 summer movie season. So what two movies start off the summer of 1987 as a whole? We've had some good movies that we've taken a look at, but what was the two movies that started the season off? Well, when you have a sequel to the most successful comedy of all time, directed by the man who just last summer had the biggest success of the year, Top Gun, chances are you're going to have a good, successful movie here. This is Eddie Murphy once again returning as Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop II.
All of you eat the floor! Now! Go!
Axel Foley is back. Who is he?
I'd say he's a cop.
This is a Detroit badge. What the hell are you doing in Beverly Hills?
I'm going deep undercover.
Back where he doesn't belong.
Excuse me, we're the owners of this house. They're in Hawaii for a week while the construction's happening. I'm Axel Foley, Beverly Hills Building Inspector.
You stolen this house.
How do you steal a house? It's my uncle's house.
Reunited with all his old buddies.
Hey! What the hell's going on here? Who the hell are you? I'm Johnny Wishbone, psychic extraordinaire. If you need me, just think Johnny Wishbone and I come running. Lots and biddle. It's like kibbles and bits, but different.
Oh, this is a big mistake, a big mistake.
Would you lighten up and take some risks?
This is definitely breaking the law.
So how long would it take to shave those legs anyway?
I suppose you're trying to be charming.
Actually, I'm just offering my grooming services. Get out of here, you degenerate! I want you out of here! Is this a black thing? Hey! Say your alarm, you gotta break it! I need authorization. Authorize!
Are we having a problem here?
You have to! Axel Foley! And this is Max. And Max kills cops for a living! Well, this is pretty sporty! Don't complain! It's all I can find! Does the steering wheel work in this thing? I'm steering! Well, do the brakes work? I don't know, I haven't tried them yet!
Kill him, burn him, blow him away.
Don't worry about a thing. On the job. That's what I'm afraid of!
Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop II. The heat's back on.
So yeah, looking at that trailer there, you can kind of see the pros and the cons of Beverly Hills Cop 2. This was as big of a success as the other movie was. This was actually the #1 movie of 1987, the highest grossing film of 1987, until Three Men and a Baby came out in the fall and basically took that over. But nevertheless, this was still a huge success. Maybe not as quite as successful as the first movie was, but you know, it was a big success regardless. I mean, it was still a movie that was still very profitable. It was still mostly received decently by critics. I mean, most people called it basically another been there, done that sequel, which it pretty much is. But some people went a little bit too far, specifically Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel. I mean, they're actually pretty harsh on both of the movies I'm going to cover here today. But no, they thought this was the worst film of 1987. I mean, it's just like, really? I mean, I get it, Beverly. I mean, I guess it's basically the same movie as the original film, but at the same time, it's just like, there was a lot of bad movies that came out in 1987. And keep in mind, they did not like the first Beverly Hills Cop movie either. In fact, most of Eddie Murphy's movies, which were very successful and actually had been received well by most critics, they did not like at all. Like, they didn't like Beverly Hills Cop. They did not like The Golden Child. They didn't like Coming to America. Actually, I can't remember who it was. I can't remember if Roger or Gene liked Coming to America. I know Gene liked Eddie Murphy Raw, but Roger didn't. But yeah, they were very critical of Eddie Murphy back then. So Yeah, but the general consensus was that Eddie Murphy was still a reliable draw regardless, and this was a very successful movie, even though Eddie Murphy himself has come out in the past and said that it's the most successful mediocre picture in history, saying that it made $250 million worldwide, but it was a half-assed movie. Cop 2 was basically a rehash of Cop 1, but it wasn't as spontaneous or as funny as the original, which... yeah, he's kind of right about, but considering what came after that with Beverly Hills Cop 3, I will gladly take this over Beverly Hills Cop 3 again. So in this movie, Eddie Murphy returns as the Detroit police detective Axel Foley, who reunites with Beverly Hills detectives Billy Rosewood, Judge Reinhold, and John Taggart, John Aston, to stop a criminal organization after Captain Andrew Bugglemill, Ronnie Cox, is shot and seriously wounded. And also, you see in the trailer there, you have Jürgen Prochnow and also Brigitte Nielsen from Rocky IV and Cobra. And like I said, it's made by the director who did Top Gun, Tony Scott, who was just coming off of Top Gun's big success last year. So you can tell they were rushing this out there to catch the zeitgeist of not just Beverly Hills Cop, but also the fact that, you know, Tony Scott's name was a big draw at the time. So yeah, you could tell that it was a hastily put together sequel in general. But compared to most comedy sequels, this one isn't anywhere near as bad as some of the worst comedy sequels. In fact, the biggest flaw of it is, yeah, it's a been there, done that storyline, and yeah, it doesn't have the same quippy lines that made the first movie so successful. It doesn't have the same wit as the first film does, but it does still have a lot of the same charm from the original movie, and the songs in here are still just as good. I mean, Bob Seger's Shakedown that starts the movie off is a damn good song and a good way to kick off this movie in general. And again, it just feels right at home with Beverly Hills Cop, especially since you had to sit through Beverly Hills Cop 3 like I did. It's just like, man, what a disaster that movie was. But, I mean, I don't know. I still like this movie a lot. Like I said, it's not the first movie. Nothing will ever top the first movie. But the Beverly Hills Cop movies as a whole have been pretty solid, especially since we just had Axel F, not but last year, which was a great return to form to the series in general. That's the real Beverly Hills Cop 3 right there. And if you include that and pretend that Beverly Hills Cop 3 doesn't exist or the TV show, I say Beverly Hills Cop has been a pretty solid franchise all across the board. And Beverly Hills Cop 2 is definitely a really enjoyable movie. Not as good as the first one, but good about as good of a comedy sequel as you can ask for. So yeah, I recommend it. I think it's a ton of fun, especially like the first one a lot. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to my personal favorite movie this week, and easily the one that has the biggest childhood memories for me. That's Alvin and the Chipmunks in their first feature film, and in my opinion, probably the only good movie with them in it, The Chipmunk Adventure.
Bill is going on a trip to Europe, and he's not taking the chipmunks.
Please, take me with you, Dave.
But he's left them in the hands of a most capable babysitter.
Did it have to be Miss Miller, Dave?
Hello? Anybody home?
Dave has nothing to worry about. Or does he?
We have people waiting around the world for $5 million in diamonds, and we can't get anyone to deliver them.
Or can they? Join the Chipmunks and the Chipettes as they take off on an action-packed musical adventure around the world.
Get lucky, get lucky. It's something I can't do without.
I will make her one of my wives.
Dream on, Tiny Tim. We have been waiting patiently. Let me unlock your heart, boy. I think I got the key. Give me a clue.
What a brilliant idea! This wasn't mine.
It's not over yet, Claudia.
Yeah, I should probably tell you this movie was not a big hit financially or critically. Well, mostly because the trailers weren't really selling the movie in general. Even the commercials weren't really selling the movie in general. I mean, that didn't feel like a trailer that you would expect for a big animated movie featuring Alvin and the Chipmunks, who were very popular at the time. Like, you had to wait 10 years for Universal to get the rights to put this movie out there to see a really good trailer on how to sell this movie.
Get ready for a mission that will take you into a world of diamonds. double crossing, and danger. Codename the Chipmunk Adventure.
We're on our way around the world.
Come along with Alvin, Simon, Theodore, and the Chipettes in this hilarious full-length animated feature that will soon be available to own for the very first time. It's a race against the clock.
We're losing valuable time.
Against the crooks.
It's too dangerous. It's only children.
And against the odds. Featuring new songs. And some of your old favorites. It's Chipmunk Excitement. Chipmunk Outrageous. The Chipmunk Adventure. Coming this spring at a collectible low price from Universal Studios Home Video.
Now, doesn't that trailer seem a whole lot better than the one that was released to theaters? Just saying. But this is, of course, based off of the 1980s Alvin and the Chipmunks show, where you have Dave Seville going on a business trip to Europe, and the Chipmunks feel devastated, but then they meet two adults who offer them and the Chipettes a chance to race around the world in a hot air balloon race, delivering dolls of themselves to different places for a $100,000 grand prize. Little do the six know that they are actually part of an illegal drug smuggling ring. That'd be an interesting movie, but no. It's an illegal diamond smuggling ring, and that somebody has sent two henchmen after the kids. And in old fashion, the Chipmunks and the Chipettes find themselves in troubling situations as the film goes on. Now, not too long ago, I did a video talking about, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel and how they were more wrong than right most of the time. And let me just say that they were definitely wrong on this one in terms of what they wanted from this movie. I mean, the fact that they weren't fans of the Chipmunks to begin with, it seems like, but Roger was the one that was basically saying, why can't they go on this magical, mystical adventure and fantasy worlds and all that type of stuff? Why do they got to be in the real world? It's just like, why do you want to see a movie like that is my question to you. It's just like, is that really what you think of when you think of Alvin and the Chipmunks? Because if you've ever watched Alvin and the Chipmunks, especially the 80s show, that is nothing like what I think Roger was wanting for this movie. But really, whenever you think of the new Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, whenever they get mentioned whenever I get mentions to somebody about them, I just always tell people to go watch this movie, because as a kid, I love this movie. It was the Chipmunks that I remembered watching them growing up in the 90s when they started their reruns on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network all the time. Like, this is my Alvin and the Chipmunks. Not that Jason Lee, Alvin and the Chipmunks garbage we've gotten nowadays, but I mean, this is a movie that has held up very well over time, and I think the new movies have played more into my appreciation for this because of how bad the movies have gotten. I like the first two Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, but yeah, I see the flaws that everybody else does, but this is the movie that I think of when I think of Alvin and the Chipmunks. The newer movies, the Chipmunks don't sing their own music. They're trying way too hard to modernize them, and then Jason Lee just doesn't feel right as David Seville, and it feels like that was a film that a lot of this movie, The Chipmunk Adventure, works because this was the creators putting all their money and their heart and soul into this movie. No joke. They literally funded this movie on their own money that they had made off the Chipmunks over the years, and they made sure they had more creative control on the film. Like, they had more personality to it in this movie. Unlike those movies that we got later on down the road. Like, this is what the Chipmunks are supposed to be. They are the way they're supposed to be. The way they're trying to modernize them isn't excruciating, and for what the 80s series was like, they did a pretty good job of handling that. And the most important thing is that the Chipmunks sing their own original songs. For the most part. Yeah, they sing songs like, Woolly Bullies, but the big surprise that I found that the song that everyone remembers from this, The Girls of Rock and Roll, which has an incredible animated sequence choreographed by, of all people, Glenn Keane from Disney. We'll get to that in just a second, because that's one of the other interesting things about this movie in general, but the main song of the movie that everyone remembers is actually a song from a 1986 B movie called The Malibu Bikini Shop, and it literally is the same song on there. I mean, it's a movie that most people would probably never even think about, but, like, the title of it alone just sounds like something you would see on Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Riff Tracks or somebody just, like, it would be the type of movie that'd be easily so hard to rip off of because it just sounds like it's the name of a terrible movie, but yeah, so technically it's not a Chipmunk original song, but considering that most people heard that song for the first time with this, it kind of is. It's very complicated stuff. But then let's get to one of the other greatest aspects of this movie, and that is the animation. Now, you have to remember something very important about what was going on around this time with Disney. Because Disney, of course, this was before the Disney Renaissance. They had just put out The Great Mouse Detective not too long ago, but before that, they had a film called The Black Cauldron, which was a massive, massive failure, and it caused Disney to let go of several of their critical animators. So, where did they end up going? The Chipmunk movie. I'm not even kidding around. Ross Bagdasarian Jr. and Janice Carmen actually hired Disney animators to work on this movie. And it shows. When you see this movie and you see how the animation works in this, like, it's incredible to look at. You've got so many different notable names in here. Not just Disney animators. Watch the end credits for this movie and look at how many memorable names. If you watch animation your entire life, you'll recognize some notable names in the credits in here. Like I said before, Glenn Keane was one of the major animators on the big dance sequence. You know, Tim Allen, who's done a lot of animation work, not the Home Improvement Tim Allen, but another Tim Allen. But, people that worked with Cartoon Network. David Feist, the creator of Cow and Chicken. Danny Antonucci, the creator of Ed and Nettie. And again, you watch the end credits, you see a lot of names in here. They mentioned Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson, two of Disney's legendary animators. One is the original 9 Old Men. I mean, the composer for the movie is Randy Edelman, who would later go on to become a very prolific score composer for a number of different comedies in the late 80s and early 90s. When you really think about it, the Chipmunk Adventure kind of is an early pioneer of the second golden age of animation, because again, you see all the effort that these guys Bagdasarian and Carmen went to make this movie as grand as it could be by hiring all these animators. But on top of that, they had a lot of things that they were working on. They were working on this with their own money. There was a lot of scenes that were cut out. There's one scene that I remember hearing about. They had to go to Russia. The Chipmunks had to go to Russia, which is not available anywhere except on the initial DVD release of the film, which I actually have, but those DVDs, by the way, go for like extreme amounts of money. The Blu-ray for this, I think online is like going for like $100 in some places because it was out of print so quickly. But I was looking to get my hands on those, and there's no way I'm getting rid of those anytime soon. But just think about the interesting aspects about this movie. This is the fact that not just the Chipmunk Adventure and Alvin and the Chipmunks in general, is that they've been at one point owned by nearly every major studio. Like the Chipmunk Adventure was released by the Samuel Goldwyn Company, which was owned by MGM at the time. The first home video release of the Chipmunk Adventure was Warner Brothers. The library of the Alvin Show and the Chipmunk TV series was acquired by Disney in the early 90s. Then the Chipmunk Adventure was released because of the Universal deal that led to a couple of direct-to-video movies. Then the series got licensed over to Paramount for DVD, as well as where the first DVD release of the Chipmunk Adventure was. And now the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies are now owned by 20th Century Fox, and then later were owned by Disney. So it basically kind of circles back around, sort of, in a way. Like, they have literally been through every single studio at some point in time. So technically, the Chipmunk Adventure could be considered a Disney movie when you really think about it. But the end result was a very time-constraining thing and led to major budget cuts, but the overall finished project itself just works so well, and you just have all these different animators on here. Skip Jones, a guy who works with Don Bluth on many of his projects. He worked on stuff like Dragon's Lair, The Secret of Nim, An American Tale, The Land Before Time, like classic movies. Andrew Gaskill's another classic director who's worked on a lot of stuff from Charlie Brown and Garfield, and has done a lot of stuff with Batman the Animated Series and the Goofy movie. As I mentioned, David Feist, Tim Allen, Roy Allen Smith, who went to work on Ren and Stimpy, Vonnie Batson, who did stuff for Hanna-Barbera, Frank Rocco, the designer of the Fairly Odd Parents, Alan Smart, who's on SpongeBob, Ron Diaz, Corny Cole, Dan Haskett. Dan Haskett's a guy you've seen a lot of work from. Don Paul, as I mentioned, Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson. You have all these people that played a part of your childhood and my childhood on this one project. That's just how massive this movie really is, while not being that massive in general. I mean, most people would just look at it as just like, oh, it's an Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, but it's much more than that, and it really does show. This probably was an early pioneer of the second golden age of animation, which is really hard to believe, but yeah, it's just a movie that just shows you how important this movie really is and what it eventually led to later on down the road. And while there's no doubt that Roger Rabbit and The Little Mermaid and shows like The Simpsons and Tiny Toons and Batman established a setup for the second golden age of animation, This one definitely deserves a lot more attention because of that, for helping to set the tone of what was to come later on down the road. In its own way, it does help a huge part in creating this memorable dynasty of animation that a lot of us, especially my age group, will never forget in general. This is just such a great movie. I mean, yeah, it's a very flawed movie too. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some stuff in there that could be very questionable by today's standards, but it's just a good movie, man. The Chipmunk Adventure is just such a good, fun ride, and no matter what happens, man, if they eventually make another Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, I guarantee you it's never going to top what this movie did. This film just still very much holds up well over time. I mean, this is such a classic movie. It's a great movie, man. I can't recommend this one enough. The Chipmunk Adventure, one of my favorite nostalgic movies from the past, one of my favorite animated movies of all time. So with all that said, we wrap up this edition of Time About the Movies Flashback, and next time around we'll flashback to May 15th, 1987 with 2 more movies. Neither one of them are anywhere near as memorable as Beverly Hills Cop 2 or The Chipmunk Adventure. Okay, the first one is, except that it's one of the most notorious flops of all time, Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty in Ishtar, and okay, maybe the second one has a little bit of a cult following in general, the horror film The Gate. So we'll take a look at both of those movies. That'll be coming up next Friday on the show, on this show in particular. But with all that said, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, check out the playlist, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification button, and the bell. So with all that said, I'm off. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.